Hey friends, we are looking at the Steam War-CONSTRUCT by iambrick. This is set number 30704 and it has 1,777 pieces. In this video, we're going to look at the box. We'll see what we're going to get with this. We'll look at the parts to confirm they're Lego compatible. And then we'll look at the instructions to see what we're in for. In a separate video, I will review the finished model. So please subscribe and you'll be the first to know when the finished model is up, and we'll do a deep dive into the finished model and we'll check it out together. Okay, so what are we looking at here? It is a steampunk mech. Here is his legs. He's got the central torso area, a big arm here with a giant drill, and then another arm with a hand, and then these are like posable fingers. And he's got these kind of steam pipes coming out of the back of him. And you also get this brick-built character that is a dwarf, and look at that giant hammer he's got, and that's beard and his eyes and the goggles they're just glorious. Anyway, this particular dwarf fits inside the mech right behind the head there. This is an opening, so you just slot him in there and he's fully standing inside that mech. In the back, here's a better image of that dwarf. Here is an image. This is looking from behind, looking down on the top, so you're seeing the area that is where the dwarf can go. And he's got some controls as well right along the top there. And then here's a better look at that drill, and it says giant drill bit. So the parts do look like they are Lego compatible, and so we're seeing pretty familiar colors here. I'm seeing a mostly brown, and then this, I think it's a medium nougat here. I don't see a dark brown, and I don't see a light nougat. I don't see other things. So that's good news, because that means that you are not going to have to suffer through figuring out what color is what if they've limited it only to a couple. And there is something really neat that I saw, which is this. They have these like bronze, somewhere between bronze and rose gold colored pieces. And I love this. Like, I think this is perfect for steampunk, and steampunk needs more of this metallic finish. And I think these are spray painted. They look terrific. And the sheen on them is really, really good. So it's not gold. It's almost like a bronze or copper. Copper is probably the best way to describe it, as copper. Everything that you see there that is a decoration is a print. So here's the head, right? That's pretty cool. That's the head for the mech. And I think this mech also has this section right in here. It's like almost looks like a thermostat or a temperature readout right in here, and that's also probably a printed piece. I wasn't able to find it in here, but I'm sure it's in there. And they also of course have painted silver pieces as well, and the paint looks decent. Yeah, not too bad in there. So it's gonna have some really cool colors to it. They have these flexible hoses, probably for additional detail, which is really neat. Okay, so let's take a closer look at the instructions. The instructions are perfect bound, and they are in this matte finished book. As usual, the packaging and everything from iambrick is really well coordinated with this pink, orange and black. You don't get any branding stickers with this one. I didn't see any. That's on some larger sets. You get some stickers that are iambrick stickers, not decorations for the model, but they're just stickers for your water bottle. And this is called the Steam War-CONSTRUCT. That is the name of the mech, is Steam War-CONSTRUCT. Here's the mech, some information. Oh, here's one sticker. Okay, so I am mistaken about a couple things. Number one, there is one sticker. Here it is. And the other thing I'm mistaken about is I thought this was a printed piece, and that is not a printed piece. Okay, and so information here about how everything works. And then check out the lore they've tried to create here. There is an entire map of the steampunk universe called the Gridera continent. Areas like Frostland and the Vero Mountains and the Roland Federation. So they went above and beyond to try and figure out a lore here. And this X is where our characters are from, specifically the Dwarven court near the Steam continent. That is where our main character is from. Our main character is named Thorg Steelhammer. He sits in that cockpit, and you can see that the name of the mech is called War-Construct. All right, and I mean, he just looks so menacing. I love that pose, and his head is at just the right angle. And it looks like he's almost got like a breathing apparatus on the sides of his mouth. I just think it's really cool. And because of this big old circle, it's got sort of a Hulkbuster Iron Man suit feel to it. There is more information, the lore over about Thorg Steelhammer and where he comes from. And as far as I can understand from this lore, his people, the dwarves, they revere metal. They feel that metal is like a second soul. And so you can kind of bind yourself to metallic objects. And so I guess they encounter this mech and he's able to bind himself to that mech. He didn't build the mech. It sounds like the mechs are maybe ancient creatures and nobody knows where they come from. They may have come from the shadowy sea, that kind of thing. And then there's this entire story here called The Night of the Falling Stars. And it's 2 pages. It mentions the Gridera continent, but the entire story is about a character named Alan. And I didn't see any other reference to Alan, so this is like a weird standalone story. And as I was reading it, it almost felt like too much. So it started to feel like they had given AI a couple prompts and then they just spit out a whole story. They kind of looked at it and said, yeah, good enough. And then they threw it in here. So I don't know. And I apologize if somebody spent a lot of time writing it, but there was something hollow about this story. It doesn't connect to Thorg, and it didn't necessarily connect to this either. And speaking of connection, I know iambrick does have a couple other steampunk sets. I feel like it would have been amazing if they had referenced those other steampunk sets in here, either as illustrations or mentioned in the narrative. That would have been a cool thing for them to do. Would have shown some forethought and some connection amongst their models. Okay, and so here's Thorg, and then this thing here is actually the base of the mech. So these are the hips for the mech, and something that you don't realize is that there is a bar that holds him up, and I think that's how they get around maybe the legs potentially being posable or not posable. There's some reason that they have this stand here, and they don't show it on the box. I think maybe they should have, just for full transparency, but what you're getting is not a mech that can necessarily stand on its own. It might not be able to. I think this is a required piece of the mech, is that black stand. All right, so you're building up the stand and you're building up the dwarf as you go into the first steps. I noticed that the way they handle this, the steps are pretty well paced. They're easy to figure out, and luckily the colors are pretty good. With each new step, they highlight in green the new parts, and the old build, the build that exists that you've already made, is kind of dimmed out, so the saturation is a little bit less. And that potentially can create some confusion because it looks like it's another color, but it's not. So I think as you go through it, it'll probably be fine and it'll make sense. So here's a better look at that. The hips, the 2 legs, and then this stand, I think is definitely part of it, and it's required. Okay, and then in these bags, you're seeing that we're building out the legs. And I'm looking at the colors, and the dark brown is distinguishable from others for the most part. This dark brown right here, you can just make out the number of studs on there, so that's good. And Let's see, we're building out his legs, we're attaching the legs, and here we've got most of his torso together. And then or most of his hips together, I should say. Here's the torso. I like this use of the balcony railing. And essentially the torso is one big empty box where Thorg gets to hang out. So, and he's got some exhaust ports there. And then as we keep going, these are cool. These really big exhausts. I like those. More piping that goes from place to place. That's pretty neat. And then ultimately you attach it. So it looks like that's on a ball joint right there where this upper area connects to the hips. So maybe there is a little bit of posability once it's on there. Here we're building out his arm. This is the drill arm. Pretty beefy. That arm is going to be pretty sizable based on what I'm seeing here. And then here's his other arm. I love that he's got this kind of like on the wrist, how the wrist is built up with those octagonal pieces. Again, it has that kind of HULKBUSTER, really beefy look to it. All right, and then it has, as you go, it does have some hints about how to handle things, you know, and how to work them in so that you'll have the best experience as you're building it. I appreciate that iambrick does that. And, you know, I'll notice too that everything is in English. So they've committed to the Western market. I really like that. I feel like this product was created for English speakers. And so that feels like a, you know, a premium decision. So more helpful hints here about how to get the most from your model. And then it ends with one more narrative story called The Whisper of the Heartforge. So again, this expands on the original lore about the dwarf and the war-construct relationship. So that's here at the very end. All right, and then we're at the back. And I noticed this set and the box, they don't mention the piece count. The piece count is 1,777, but it's not listed anywhere. So I thought that was unusual for a brick set. Okay, cool. So I hope you got to see everything you wanted to see so far. Again, like it if you like it. And like I said, subscribe. You'll be the first to know when it's been built. All right, thanks so much.